Well, everyone, welcome to World at War Comics. My next special guest is Mr. Joe Sieracki. Joe, thank you for hanging out with me today. Cannot wait to dig into Captain Suave, which I know is going to be on Zoop and very soon. I got a little preview of it, and it was a lot of fun, man. But before we get into that, how's your week going? How's everything with you right now?
Tommy, thank you so much for having me on the show here. Week's going pretty good. Very busy. I'm a high school teacher in my day job, so just got home from a long day teaching a little bit ago, which can definitely take it out of you a little bit. But I'm happy to be here on your show and talk some comics.
Let's do it, man. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do before we kind of jump into Captain Suave. I would love to kind of go back in time, and I would love to know where the passion for storytelling began in your life, and was there one person that played a role in that passion for storytelling?
I've always been a big reader. Ever since I was little, my grandmother would constantly, when I was staying with her, my parents were working, taking me up to the library. We live in suburbs of Northeast Ohio near Cleveland, and there was a beautiful library by my grandmother's and grandfather's house that she would just constantly take me. Every time I would go over there, she would take me and pick up books, go back to their house, and just read and read. So I've always been very passionate about reading. I would say that she, my grandmother, really helped to foster that a lot. And that's maybe where some of that passion for storytelling began. As time continued, I started to gravitate not only towards novels and literature, but comics as well, particularly Bill Watterson, Calvin Hobbes. That's really where I started to get my feet wet with comics. And then I started getting into, the superheroes, Marvel in particular. Spider-Man was always number one for me. Something about that kid, that science geek, and just having the whole secrets that nobody knows about. That just really appealed to me as a kid. And I know a lot of comic creators have said this, and it's almost cliche at this point, but the original X-Men cartoon and the Batman cartoon, that was like nothing else to me. Like I couldn't miss an episode. I would watch them over and over again with the reruns.
Yeah.
And every time I would come home, that would be on. And it just struck such a chord with me that it really solidified, I think, my lifelong love of comic books.
Yeah. I think a lot of us could relate to that, Joe. I mean, those cartoons, JLA for me was a big one. Obviously, the Spider-Man cartoon. I'm
Mm-hmm.
almost 50, right? So those Spider-Man cartoons, the early ones, were a big one for me too. So yeah, very relatable, my friend. Very relatable. That's awesome. Was there certain writers or artists in comic books that you kind of look up to as you jumped into the industry and started producing your own stories?
Yeah, you know what? As a kid, you don't, or at least I didn't, you don't really recognize the creators. It was more the characters. It was Spider-Man. It was the X-Men. I didn't really notice like who's drawing these stories that I really loved, who's writing these stories that I really loved. And then right around high school, college, right around that time, I kind of fell out of comics for a little bit, and I was taking a poli sci course in college where the professor actually was using Transmetropolitan. Are you familiar with that book?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I
So
think
that
you have to go through that in certain like what was your major?
I was a science education major, so
Oh,
I was
okay.
just taking poli sci as an elective.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it was just kind of an interesting course to me. But part of the required course reading was this collection, a trade paperback of Transmetropolitan,
Yeah.
and I was like, whoa, having been away from comics for a little bit, it blew my mind. I'm like, this is not what I remember comics being like whatsoever. And
Yeah.
it started introducing me to Vertigo.
Yeah.
Before long, I was reading Sandman, and then I was delving into Alan Moore, and those were really the comics and the writers that I started gravitating towards. Along with like Garth Ennis and Warren Ellis, and then I started to really appreciate not only that aspect, but the art.
Yeah,
And I really started to fall in love with different artists as
yeah.
well. And you can see behind me, I have a small collection of some original art, and that became a dangerous hobby for me for a little bit. I've had you gotta watch it with that one, especially now. It's gotten very expensive since
Yeah,
when I first started. It was much cheaper, but
yeah.
yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there.
That's awesome, man. I love it though. I love it. Yeah, the art stuff, boy, it could get really expensive now. I mean, the collectability of everything has just gone to another level. I think there's people that don't even care too much about comic books. They're just hoping that they could flip something in a few years. So you got a lot of people coming into the comics just to see if they can't make a buck or two,
Oh
which
yeah, there's people that actually invest in it at this point where they buy these pieces that aren't actually theirs. They
yeah,
own it with like several other people,
man.
like an investment fund of some sort, where they're collecting these first appearances of characters and hoping down the line to flip it for a lot of money. I don't know. That's not my interest. I've always kind of viewed comic art as kind of the next step to comic collecting, where you had this nice issue of whatever. I never really cared about graded comics or anything like that. I was more of a reader than anything else. But comic art is just this unique, beautiful thing that you really, once you behold it in person, there's almost nothing like it. And I say almost because I just recently got that artist edition of Batman Year One, and if you haven't seen that in person, it is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible, man. That's awesome. Well, let's jump into some of your other stuff. So you have a title, what was it called? Ghost of Science Past. I would love
Mm-hmm.
for you to kind of dig into that a little bit, especially since it sounds like, are you teaching science then to high schoolers right now?
I am teaching science to high
Yeah,
schoolers.
I saw
So,
one of your pictures where you have a dropper and you're looking at the
yep.
cover. Yeah. Can you
Yeah,
kind
I
of
did.
walk into that and where that came from?
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, there's a couple of posed pictures like that on my Instagram. But so that book, Ghosts of Science Past, I teamed up with Jesse Lonergan, which you may or may not be familiar with.
Oh
He's
yeah.
done a lot recently, actually, with like Man's Best, and he did the
Yeah.
Magnolia book. And he really started I think skyrocket into comics with Hydra from Image, which is just a tour de force of art like you've never
Yeah.
seen. I really recommend if anybody listening hasn't picked that up or seen that, seek it out. It's really amazing work. But kind of the idea behind Ghosts of Science Past was teaching science. I know how tedious a science textbook can be, and I was looking for the longest time for being a comics fan, something that I could just integrate into my classroom, something that might, kind of excite the kids a little bit more, something that we can kind of use to go along with the text, but not be beholden to it. And I found a few graphic novels that I thought this is pretty good, but it doesn't quite fit. And at certain points, having written in a few comics myself, I said, why don't I give this a shot? Why don't I just do this myself? So I started writing up a pitch, seeking out some artists, talked to Jesse. He was really into the idea, and we gave it over to Humanoids. They were into it as well, particularly at the time. Mark Wade was the publisher at Humanoids, and he really connected with it. I don't know if you know this about Mark Wade, but he's a big science nerd himself. So as soon as he saw that and saw Jesse's art, he said, let's get these guys a book. And from there, we were just rolling on this. And essentially, it's a Christmas Carol, but with scientists. So kid's not doing so well in his science class. He starts getting visited by various ghosts of science past, like Charles Darwin pops up and Gregor Mendel pops up. But also, we introduce some lesser known scientists that you may not normally see in the textbook, to kind of diversify not only the characters, but who the students were learning about as well. So it's I think, fun read, but also educational read. And Jesse, like everything else he does, just knocked it out of the park. He really brings some really cool visuals to go along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the kindest people you'll ever meet as well.
Hmm.
We had him on the show for Man's Best with Pornsack, which was a lot of fun. Just a great person. So yeah, no, it's a great choice for an artist. He is very, very talented. Very
Oh,
talented.
I consider myself extremely lucky to have partnered with him on that book.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into Captain Suave because you got Kelly Williams, which you've worked with a couple different times. Can you talk about how you two came together and what is causing you to stay together to create all these new creations? And there must be a really good working relationship here.
Yeah, Kelly and I have built a great relationship over time. So Kelly was first introduced to me by an editor when I was pitching a book called A Letter to Joe, and that is my first published work by Top Shelf, and it is essentially a graphic novelization of a letter that my grandfather had written my grandmother, that I'd spoken about earlier, towards the end of World War II, kind of detailing his experience. And we took that letter and we crafted a narrative around it, including like parts of the letter itself in there, just kind of explaining what he went through and bounces back and forth between him overseas and her back here in Cleveland, Ohio, and kind of that whole experience. So that was my first introduction to Kelly. The editor kind of paired us up. We had a lot of fun working on that project together, and Kelly just did an amazing job on it, bringing the entire story to life. And he works in primarily watercolors, so that kind of like painted murkiness, muckiness, and he's also got a uses he does a lot of like horror books. That's kind of his bread and butter. So bringing that horror to the horrors of war, it fits so well. And um, from there on, we kind of built a friendship. From there, we started, chatting on a regular basis. He's a big video gamer. I game myself, so we found ourselves on more than a few late nights just playing games, talking comics, and we went to a show together. First met him in Chicago at C2E2. Later, we did a table there together when we were first putting Captain Suave out. And we've done a couple other projects together, working on a few more. So it's just, I don't know. I feel lucky again. Like I I wouldn't have found Kelly if not for that editor, and he just ended up being a really good friend that we love working together.
That's awesome. I would encourage anybody to go to Kelly's Instagram or Facebook and scroll through all of his posts. Some of the art is just next level. And like you said, there is a lot. I noticed a lot of horror, a lot of skeletons,
Mm-hmm.
and he is fantastic at putting that together. You can see he has a passion for it. He had some pretty like death metal going on behind him while he was kind of talking in one of his videos. So I think it's definitely down his alley and is perfect.
Yep.
But he's awesome, man. Amazing artist. And even Captain Suave, man, the art throughout the entire book is incredible. So let's walk it through a little bit of the story. But before we get into that, right, on Zoop, you're going to have the collected works. I believe it's 5 issues, if I'm not mistaken, right, that you're collecting all into a hardbound book, right? Is it going to be hardbound?
You know what? I'm actually not sure about that.
Yeah.
So the book is entirely done, entirely
Yeah.
designed, ready to go to printer. We are still discussing, however, with the printer, some of the details of whether it's going to be a softbound, hardbound, things like that. But it is absolutely all ready to go. As you said, 5 issues, all interiors, covers. We had done originally a ash can introduction. That's in there as well. So it's over 140 pages of pure comics, no filler. We didn't include any of the like process stuff. I know some people really like the process stuff. I don't know. Me personally, I'm kind of burnt out on it a little bit, and sometimes I feel like you're just kind of padding the book out a little bit. So we're 140 pages, all comics, and yeah, it's ready to go.
So did issue 5 already come out before the collected works, or are people going to see that for the first time?
Issue 5 did come out a
Okay.
while ago.
Okay. Sorry.
we originally had the book with a publisher, and that didn't turn out so well for us. I don't won't go into too
Yeah,
much
no
detail
problem.
about that,
Yeah,
but we were able to luckily completely get the book back
yeah,
all to us, and we talked about, well, okay, what do we want to do with it from here? And Kelly goes to a lot of shows. I unfortunately don't get to too many shows, but he goes to a lot of shows. And at one of those shows, he had met Eric from Zoop, and he'd been talking to him for a while. And Eric's been asking Kelly, is there something you want to bring to Zoop? And Kelly said, you know what, maybe that would be the right place to, collect all these issues of Captain Suave that we had done that honestly nobody's seen. So this is good. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a first experience for the majority of people who did not get to see the issues of Captain Suave as they came out. But collecting all of it together into this one complete story was kind of the idea behind it.
that's awesome. Incredible. So let's get into it. If you could give me kind of your elevator pitch. I did get a chance to look it over and I had a lot of fun with it. Homeless man kind of playing a superhero role. Can you kind of walk into how you came to that story and what was the motivation around that?
Yeah. So if anyone is familiar, and I think everyone's at least a little bit familiar with Don Quixote, I would say it's kind of a modernization of that. Don Quixote was this guy who was obsessed with stories of knights and wanted to be a knight errant himself. He wanted to go around traveling and, saving people and righting wrongs and doing good deeds. And that story connected with me, and I thought about, well, it's kind of like a superhero, right? It's not
For
so
sure.
different. Superheroes are always trying to do the right thing. They're trying to help people. But who in our modern society is kind of this overlooked group, and who might step into a role like that? And enter Captain Suave. He's a homeless man living in Cleveland, Ohio, and he truly believes that he is a superhero. So the book plays a lot with reality versus fantasy. I guess if I was going to explain this book, it's probably the only book you will ever read about a superhero that's not really a superhero, because at times we'll show panels of Captain Suave as a superhero, and Kelly colors those digitally using, I think it's called a Ben-Day dot patterning, which is supposed to mimic kind of like an old
Yeah.
school comic look
70s.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
kind
little
of like
dots
that. This,
everywhere. Yeah.
that like
It's so
Silver
cool
Age kind of
too.
look.
It looks
And then,
awesome.
thank you. I say thank you on his behalf, but
Yeah.
but it really was kind of a nervous thing, because next to it we'll have the reality panels, which he works as he normally works, which is pencil, ink, and watercolors. So the idea was we would have these kind of like juxtaposed panels of, here's what's happening in reality, here's what's happening in his head, his fantasy. And honestly, had no idea if that was going to work on a page. Like, is that going to look weird? You got a hand painted page, and then you got a panel right next to it or in it that's digitally colored, but let the readers judge for themselves. But I'm pretty pleased. I thought it came out pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely defines the two aspects of Captain Suave for sure. And I think that's really important as you read the story because although there's some comedic aspects to it, there's a little bit of drama, obviously dealing with someone who has maybe some mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. What I'd like to do, if it's okay, I'd like to bring up just the Zoop site. Obviously, um, it's not live yet, but I would encourage people to get over there as soon as possible. All you have to do is put in your email address, and Zoop will email you as soon as Captain Suave goes live. And Zoop has been an amazing partner for a lot of creators. And just like you, Joe, I mean, they kind of do it all for you, right? Which is awesome as a creator, especially you busy teaching during the day. Zoop has become a pretty good partner for a lot of creators, knowing that they're going to take care of the stuff that everyone hates doing as part of their offering, right? Which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I've always been curious about crowdfunding, but The aspect of it that was most daunting and made me kind of afraid to even try it was the whole fulfillment aspect. So having them helping with that, helping with some of the promotional aspects, setting up the pages, stuff like that, huge help. So I think they're doing really good stuff at Zoop. I noticed you've had a few people on your show as of late that are doing some Zoop campaigns. So I know you're seeing a lot of it as well, but yeah, I think they're doing a lot of cool things over there. And I love that it's specifically comic books too. You
Yes.
know, you put comic uh, campaigns on Kickstarter, and I feel like sometimes they can just kind of get lost and with everything else. So the Zoop guys, they're doing a really good job over there. I think they're bringing some cool projects to people that wouldn't otherwise see them. Like Captain Suave may have died with that previous publisher, but now it's getting a new life here on Zoop. So pretty excited about that. And I do encourage your listeners to sign up for that pre-page. I'm not supposed to say when the actual launch date is going to be, but let me
No
just
problem.
say it's going to be very, very soon.
Awesome. Well, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we put this link below, just so that people can sign up, and then they'll get that email as soon as it goes live, which is awesome. But yeah, man, I'm really excited for you and the ability to bring life to this. I think Zoop specifically looks for unique stories like this. Just talking to Jordan a little bit, and Eric, they really love those unique stories that they see a lot of promise. And man, that second life, especially if it's been a few years, to bring it back as a collected work is a lot of fun. And I don't know if you're noticing this, Joe, but graphic novels outside of the US, right? It's all graphic novels. The
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday thing is really just a US and Canada thing. Everywhere else, it's only graphic novels that you could find. You could still find single issues, but it's not very big. And they have really, even though they have some single issues on Zoop, it seems like they really like those collected works. And I don't know who they're using for the printing, but I've purchased some prior collected works, and the quality of your book, you are in such good hands, Joe. It's freaking phenomenal. And with Kelly's art, especially that kind of Silver Age style, and then more of the modern style between where Captain Suave is in his mental state, it's gonna pop like you would not believe. So I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm excited myself. I really feel like this book is a comics fans kind of comic book. We pay a lot of homage to classic comics that you
Yeah.
will see things happening in the story, read things that you're going to recognize, that maybe not your average reader might see, but I think some of the hardcore comic fans, they're going to see a lot. We pay a lot of homage to the history of comics in Cleveland, which is kind of a story town when it comes to comics. I mean, Superman, which kind of started all of the superheroes, started here in Cleveland with a couple of kids,
Yeah.
Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, and Jerry Siegel. And if you're a fan of Kelly's art, if people are checking out his Instagram, we are going to have some original art rewards as well. There'll be pages from the book available for people, and he's also going to do some limited commissions of some classic superheroes. When the page launches, there'll be a sample of that. He did this killer Superman piece that you absolutely have to see when it launches, and I'm trying to do my part as well. I'm a writer. I'm not a artist, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying to make some art pieces as well. They're not going to be as
Nice.
good as Kelly's. I'm telling you right now. But what I lack in basic artistic skills, I promise. If you check it out, I make up for in unbridled stupidity. So check them out. They're very stupid.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That'll be a lot of fun, I think, Joe. I think that'll be a lot of fun, man. So, Captain Suave coming very soon. Did you want to talk about anything else that people could kind of look at as we go to the site? We put in our email address and we wait for that email letting us know when we go live. How could other people kind of follow you, understand what you've worked on before, and maybe get an idea of other things that you're working on outside of Captain Suave?
Yeah, sure. Just go to my website. It's my name, josephsieracki.com. It's got links to my books there and where they can be purchased. You can follow me on social media. and I'm usually posting things there that either I'm into or I'm working on. And there are some projects that I'm working on, none that I can really talk about at the moment. Kelly, too, he's always putting stuff out. He's been working on a book called Dead and the Damned. That's the skeletons that you were probably seeing on his Instagram, which is really cool. And he's done some work recently with Mad Cave as well, putting out some really neat horror books over there. So, yeah, I really encourage everybody to check out what we're both doing. And if you like comics, you like superheroes, and maybe you like a little bit of a spin on all that, check out Captain Suave. It might be
Yeah.
something you might be into.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And now that you had mentioned there is a call back to some of the amazing creators that really Jack Kirby, like that really got
Mhm.
comics to where it is. There's a funny part where they're cold and
Yes.
his sidekick wants to burn all of his comic books. He's like, "Dude, you can't burn these. Like, are they worth
It's
something?" He's like, "No, it's just the
like, are you
greatest stories you'll ever."
crazy?
What's wrong with you, man? So yeah, you'll have a lot of fun as you're reading this. There is a lot of callbacks to some of the greats, and there's quite a story, especially as you get into the later issues that I think will touch you in a lot of ways. So congratulations, Joe. I mean, that's freaking awesome. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. I'll definitely be signing up too. I can't wait to get that email letting us know when you go live. And yeah, I'll make sure also below we're gonna put all your socials on there. We'll put your um the address, obviously the Zoop, and then we'll put your website too. That way people can check out some of your older work as they wait for this to come in.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, likewise, man. Hopefully this isn't our last time. Maybe we can have you come back when some of your other stuff you're ready to be able to share about it. That'd be fun.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Really appreciate it, and congratulations on having that all come into a collection and making it available for fans.
All right. Thanks, Tommy.
All right, have a good one.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.